is the Craig Collins Show.
Lord Jesus, oh God, no.
Start talking. Talk fast.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Now your host,
He's a good man.
Craig.
That's right. It is the Craig Collins Show. GBC, the voice of Texas. Thrilled to be with you. A whole lot of stuff out there to talk about. Thank you to Captain Jack for setting up some of that at the beginning there for me. But yeah, we got a lot to do in an hour, and it's always a rush. The funniest thing, I love being here for the Amigos show. They do a lot of newsworthy stuff on their program. They had John Cornyn on today. I think a lot of people would have a lot of different opinions of hearing John Cornyn anywhere, not just the Amigos, but literally like any place that John Cornyn is. There's a lot of strong feelings about him. I will say this, though, and I'm certainly someone who's endorsed Ken Paxton. I think that anyone who listened to my show just this week would know that I officially endorsed Ken Paxton on this very program. But as I say that, something that I was talking to the Amigos about as they were walking out is they're one of the only shows in, I think, the city, certainly the surrounding area, but maybe even the state, that could have on Paxton last week, Cornyn this week. And they did it, both of them, for newsworthy reasons. So we might play some of the Cornyn audio at some point. It is not necessarily a discussion about his campaign. I wonder if also, I'll put this out there, that you have to get equal time. If one candidate for a position gets on air somewhere, another candidate for a position gets to get on air somewhere, there's rules and ways that you could say maybe it's not deserved or it is deserved. I don't know what it is, but I'm just putting that out there too. But it was interesting to see Paxton last week and then have Cornyn this week on this show. But I credit the Amigos for their ability to do that and their ability to have those relationships and talk to whoever is here. And one last thing I will say, and I promise this is not me kissing up to the Amigos, but I will say it, is Cornyn's currently a senator. So if you're going to have a conversation about a newsworthy thing and the person currently in a position of power, however much I am happy or very much unhappy about that, regardless of what that is, if you're going to do a newsworthy show and talk to people that are genuinely involved in that news, Cornyn's one of those people. So certainly that was an interesting thing, again, to hear and see. All right, there's a piece of audio that I really want to play, and I found it on social media. And once you see it, so I'm actually even going to play the video on the live stream. If you're on my Facebook page today, because I live stream every Friday on Facebook at Radio Craig C, and then I also do a Radio Craig C on Twitter, and then Rumble and YouTube, just like the Amigos. You see the Craig Collins Show on those places. If you're in any of those places watching this program, you will see the video, and it's eerie to hear it, but it's even more strange to see it. This is Nick Fuentes and Ana Kasparian. Anna is a far-left crazy human. Nick Fuentes, of course, is a far-right crazy human. I don't even know if I'd call him a conservative anymore because he's actually advocated for voting for Democrats. But someone laced video together showing identical stances on Israel, how much they think Israel's the enemy and terrible, horrible people and all this other stuff. It is jarring to hear word-for-word similarities between a Fuentes and an Ana Kasparian because of how ideologically opposed they're supposed to be on a variety of topics. This is really similar to when you watch mainstream videos of news media, and it's identical. The thing that one news organization says and another news organization says, and you have like 50 local news outfits all giving the exact same script on a story. It's very similar to that. So without further ado, I do want to play this. This is audio of Nick Fuentes and Ana Kasparian. If you don't know who Anna is, I wouldn't be surprised that a lot of this audience wouldn't, because she's a far-left crazy dirtbag herself. But anyway, as she says one thing, you'll hear Nick Fuentes and back and forth say identical things on a stance in the war in Iran, Israel in general, just a lot. It's once you hear it and see it, you can't unhear it and see it. And my point in this, by the way, the thing that I think is most valuable about playing this, is I think the left is tricking a lot of stupid people into saying a lot of stupid things. Those people might even be Nick Fuentes's of the world and using it. They're trying to convince the right to attack itself, even if they don't notice it's what they're doing. This feels like that. Here we go. Wait, let me actually make sure that my audio is up. I'm sure it is now. And now let's go ahead and hit play on this. This is Nick Fuentes, Ana Kasparian.
Our country is under a hostile occupation.
Israeli occupation of the United States government.
Israel controls our government.
Israel controls our government.
Control and influence and manipulate our system.
Ruled and controlled and manipulated by the nation state of Israel.
They are vampires. They suck our blood.
They suck the life out of this country.
We cannot be slaves to Israel.
I'm not a slave to Israel.
Iran does not have a nuclear weapon.
Iran did not have a nuclear arsenal.
The supreme leader of Iran promulgated a fatwa.
He had to put out a fatwa against nuclear weapons.
We
This
have
is
to
crazy.
join Israel's war of choice.
A war of choice. That's what this is.
The real threat to America is from Israel.
Our alliance with Israel as an existential threat to the United States.
They will nuke the entire world.
Israel is the biggest threat to world peace.
I'll stop it right there. There's another minute and 45 seconds of this, but you get the idea. This is a far left podcaster person, what I think a lot of us would refer to as a useful idiot for Democrats, putting out a message that seems aligned with the Democratic Party and all the things that they're willing to do, the people they're willing to vilify, like all the terrible, horrible stuff out there in society. And then you hear what is supposed to be a conservative influencer, especially of young voters, in Nick Fuentes, far right, Nazi sympathizer, all the other things you can say about him, Holocaust denier, even though I think he's couched that at times in saying that he was just kidding around. And any time that he says something serious, it might also be a joke, regardless of whether or not it's something he actually intends to be a joke. It could be a joke, is what you're supposed to believe when you hear him say that. But nonetheless, I just thought that was so powerful because regardless of attacking, say, an easy target, I think it is an easy target like Nick Fuentes or any other target out there, the thing that actually matters to me is the way in which our media, whatever that media is, the radio media, internet media, internet influencers, podcasting, is used by the powers that want to convince you, myself, anyone else to do something we shouldn't do, to sit out an election, to vote for a Democrat when you shouldn't put them in a position of power. I mean, look, I'll say this. I'm no fan of John Cornyn. Even after he pops up on the Amigos, it doesn't sway my opinion on who I think should be the candidate for the Senate seat here in Texas. But as I say that, I know definitively there is no way that Cornyn is worse than Tallarico. Not even close to worse than Tallarico, actually. Incredibly, incredibly better than Tallarico, obviously. So there's something really, really scary about the idea that people like Nick Fuentes are convincing potentially young voters, other types of voters that might pay attention to his social media stuff, but I think it is predominantly young people, to go a different way. Trump won the popular vote because of a couple different subsets of voters that overwhelmingly changed their mind from past elections to vote for Trump in 2024. Young voters is one of those groups. But there were a few groups that said, Latino voters is another a big group that did this, that said, you know what? I'm not going to vote Democratic. A Democratic is terrible. And now you have morons out there saying and doing moron things that could damage us pretty profoundly if they don't, get rejected at the highest of levels. And there's so many other versions of that, too, I think. I could play a version of people attacking Erica Kirk, and you'd see the Candace Owens of the world popping up and saying the same thing as the far left people who would like to tear Turning Point USA down. Turning Point USA, I'm not going to go as far as to say they helped Trump fully win the election. I'm not going to give them credit for Trump's win, but they definitely had an impact on the amount of people who voted a certain way. I mean, J.D. Vance even still name-dropped Theo Vaughn, a young podcaster who has said he regrets advocating and endorsing Trump, but yet it was useful in the past election and useful to certain people to convince certain people to vote a certain way. So again, all of this is trying to dismantle a system that was successful and valuable and increasing and growing and changing, that was helping Republicans reach an audience that Democrats typically own. So I just see so much of the game plan right now as being a way to, we have to figure out how to stop that message, stop that version of discussion from landing in the places it's landing, because that's bad. That's the Democratic position, and they're convincing some idiots on our side of the aisle to help them out, and it's terrible. All right, we're going to take a break. After the break, we're going to hear from a very special veteran who has been honored multiple times in our community and actually for a very long time has worked at this radio station. So we're going to hear from him. We're going to hear from another veteran in a little bit. We got two different veterans coming on for a Veteran Voices segment after a quick break. Thrilled to be with you, KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas. This is the Craig Collins Show.
Dan Patrick for my friend Louis Flory and Ability Tree Experts.
Spring is here and summer just around the corner, which means it's time to deep root fertilize your trees in addition to spraying for insects and disease. Let Ability Trees help maintain their value and repair all damage. Fed and prune tree will be less susceptible to wind damage and uprooting. Caring for the beautiful and valuable trees on your property that you can replace should be done by experts. And the experts I use, it's very clear. It's Ability Tree Experts and Louis Flory, my friend for over 40 years. Gosh, this guy is the pro when it comes to taking care of trees. You know, pruning is important for the health of your trees, and pruning limits resistance to spring storms and allows the sun and fresh air into the canopy. Trees can be in distress several months without showing any signs, so don't wait to protect your investment at 281-441-4179, 281-441-4179, or visit their website at abilitytrees.com. Right now, Ability Trees is giving a deep root feeding with every tree prune. Ability Trees, Houston's leading tree care professional.
You know, where we go in life matters, and what we do matters, and we know that taking the wrong road won't produce the best outcomes. Hi, I'm Kathy with Baker Mortgage, and we want you to take the right path when it comes to your mortgage. You know, we live in a world of information overload, but always consider the source. And these are not generally going to be from your big bank or a random offer that comes across your screen. Remember, you're always going to get a better deal on one that you go looking for than one that comes looking for you. You need to deal with somebody who gives a you-know-what, whether or not you're happy in the end. At Baker Mortgage, we do it right. We haven't been around for 68 years because we're lucky. We don't sell CDs, insurance, or anything else. We just provide a great mortgage experience. Isn't that what you're looking for? Call us at Baker Mortgage. I promise you'll be glad you did. We're at 281-313-MOVE or go directly to bakermortgage.com.
Equal housing lender. License number 263213.
This is Kevin O'Hara with O'Hara & Company Real Estate. Our country's founding fathers drafted a document that is the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers from the
It's Gary.
governed. My friends at O'Hara & Company Real Estate, we believe we're at a precipice in time where we must take back our country. We must stand up for our freedoms or lose them forever. Please don't sit idle and let it slip away. Don't let anyone force you to do something you choose not to. As JFK said, if not us, who? If not now, when? If you're looking to buy or sell real estate, give O'Hara & Company Real Estate a call at 281-373-3393, 281-373-3393, or look us up on the web at o'harare.com. I'm Kevin O'Hara. God bless America, and God bless Texas.
This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas. I do something called Veteran Voices every Friday since I started doing a weekday show here at KSEV and KGBC. I actually did this segment for a long time in a different state for a show that I did for about 3 years as an afternoon drive show somewhere in a market. And I kept thinking that one of the veterans that definitely deserved to be applauded actually works here. Gary Elliott is our production manager. He has been awarded multiple times for awards for creating and airing commercials for veteran organizations, veteran causes. So I'm going to bring him on. Marine. Gary Elliott, Gummy Gary, welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey.
Hey, say that again, buddy. I'm sorry, your phone broke up for a sec.
Okay, no, I said, how you doing?
Good, dude. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
Awesome. Yeah, so here's the thing. I want to explain this to you on the air, Gary. I was looking for a veteran to honor this week, and I was just curious about you. So I punched your name into Facebook, and I see video after video shot here at KSEV Radio, you, your friend Andy, some other people, some other organizations honoring you and giving you awards because of your outreach to the veteran community. You created multiple different spots, multiple campaigns to, I think, raise awareness for veteran events, veteran organizations. I think it was like 3 years in a row. They awarded you as like Veteran of the Month or something. So I figured, hey, man, you're getting a bunch of awards. I might as well bring you on the radio. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fine, Craig.
Yeah, Andy, though, is the reason for all of that. Andy, he's an amazing guy, and you'll get to hear that in a few minutes. But
Sure.
Andy first came to me so many years ago. And I go, well, come on, let's do it. And that just morphed into other things, other events. There's an outfit that he's with is called the Macklemore Marines.
Yes.
And they do a lot of stuff for veterans, burial stuff, awards, just all kinds of things. They meet monthly, but it's just a good organization.
Well, so tell me a little bit about your own veteran experience. You are a Marine veteran. You didn't serve in combat, but you actually were in basic training right before the end of the Vietnam War. Do you want to share some of your experience being a part of our military?
It was an honor. It was hard. And if I had to do it all over again, I would. So.
Really? What was your favorite part of the experience? If you could, was it the brotherhood, the camaraderie of it, or something else?
All of that. It was, it's just that camaraderie with your fellow Marines, because it really is once a Marine, always a Marine, and that's true. It's not just saying it; it really is true.
Sure. And this is probably part of the reason then you get involved and want to do stuff to help Andy and others, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I got a little bit of a surprise
when
for
Andy
you.
came to me,
I got a little bit of a surprise for Gary.
Okay.
Andy is calling in early, so Andy's actually on the phone too. I wanted you guys to be on together.
Okay.
Andy, are you there?
Yes, sir.
All
How
right.
you doing?
So, Andy, I don't know if you've heard anything that Gary said so far about the crazy amount of things he's done to help you and a bunch of the organizations, but what do you want to say about how Gary at Elliott has impacted some of the organizations that you work with?
Gary's one of those rare treasures you run across in life. You never know who you're going to meet, and when he has just opened the doors to help the veteran community in such a selfless way, we took the time to kind of learn his story, and the more we learned, of course, the more treasure we discovered. So I don't know what you said about Gary, but, definitely we wanted to recognize him within the veteran community with the American Legion, the Marine Corps League, and the Veterans Chamber here in Houston. So that's kind of a quick brief, and we can continue to vibe.
No, yeah, that's basically what we started off talking about. And Andy, how long have you known Gary now?
Oh, shoot. Time flies, right, Gary? So what, maybe 5 years?
Yeah,
8 years? I don't know.
6 years.
Okay.
5, 6 years.
And Andy, what branch of the military were you in?
Well, I was in the United States Marine Corps, the
okay.
Uncle Sam's misguided children, right?
Gotcha.
Gotcha. But I needed it.
Gotcha. So you're both Marines. Gary, tell me a little bit about Andy, if you don't mind.
Stand-up guy. He always looking out for the other guy. He looks out for his other fellow Marines. I mean, Andy's not one of those guys that's trying to make this company and make me a lot of money. Now, he does it because he's helping his buddies. He's helping other Marines, other veterans. I mean, not just Marines, Navy, Air Force, Army,
Yeah.
The Macklemore Marines is one of the most special ones that I think Andy's belonging to, but he's got others.
Well, let me ask you both this, because I've seen it happen before with Marines or veterans, whether they serve together or not. So it doesn't matter if you were in the same conflict, if you're in the same unit, or if you're two totally different generations of veterans. When you guys get together, there's this instant bond that seems to form because of an understood history, a shared experience that no one who's not a veteran has. Is that something that came up between the two of you? Gary can actually answer this question first if he wants to, and then Andy can. Is that something that happened between the two of you that inspired a lot of this work together, or was there something else that kind of lit that fire?
Well, when Andy approached me about doing, I don't remember which event it was. It was probably a memorial event or something for the Macklemores. I don't remember which one, but once I saw what they were doing, I was going, yeah, I'm all the way in.
Nice.
Whatever you need, anytime. And Dan Pastrick, he always said, you always help veterans. So that's from the top. So.
Awesome. Andy, the same question to you. Is there some sort of connection immediately when you met Gary?
Oh yeah, so discovering he was a Marine. Of course, I went to MCRD San Diego like he did, so he was before me. Of course, once you go through the crucible, the change definitely is forever. I told, and Gary can attest to this. I swear they tried to kill us in boot camp, but we refused to die. And Gary had an uncle that was killed in war, and you just have that lineage that goes back even before our own. We have uncles and aunts. And cousins that have served and the like, but we love all veterans, right? So we all sign that check that we're willing to cash, if you will, to our life. And so anyway, we just have that instant bond and stories we can talk about boot camp and where we served, et cetera.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to that. I know we only have a couple more minutes with Gary, and then we're going to let him go. And Andy, you and I are going to have a longer conversation. But Gary, Andy just mentioned a relative of yours. You have some pretty significant family members in the world of the military, right?
Yeah, my two uncles, my Uncle Jim and my Uncle Buddy, both joined the Marine Corps in 1939. So they were well into the Marine Corps before the Pearl Harbor or any of that other was going on, But my Uncle Jim was killed on Okinawa at the very end of the war. My Uncle Buddy was an airplane mechanic, and I think at one time he was even working with Pappy Boyington, so island hopping.
Wow. That's amazing. How many other people? Are those the only family members that served in the military? Did you have a bunch of other family members that did it?
No, I got a bunch of cousins that were in the Army and the Navy and the Air Force, and we're just the Norris family is a volunteer family from Tennessee.
All right. So since I know you got to run, Gary, I know you got something going on at 6:30. I just have one more question for you. You mentioned that family members were in other branches of the military. Do you have a friendly air-friendly joke that you'd use as a Marine to make fun of another branch of the military? Is there anything you can think of? I know the military likes to do this. I know you guys like to jab each other. I would like to know if you got a favorite.
Well, Jack can tell you. We call him a swabby.
A swabby? Yeah. I got you. Well, thank you very much, Schwabby. Gary Elliott, he is a Marine veteran. Almost was asked to fight in the Vietnam War, just in basic training right before it ended. But an awesome person and a guy that's done a lot for veterans. He missed it by that much. And a guy that's done a whole lot for veterans, a bunch of different awards out there. Anything else you want to say, Gary, before we let you go?
No, just listen to everything Andy is telling you. And if you need help, if you want to go somewhere where you can be with other like-minded people, Andy can set you on that track.
Amazing. Well, thank you again. Look at this. Gary Elliott, thank you. I'm going to let you go. Gary Elliott giving his time to another veteran. I contacted him this week, Andy, and I was like, I'd like to talk about you for an entire half an hour. And Gary's like, I'm not that guy. I'm not a guy that talks about me for that long. And he goes, I got another guy for you, though, a guy you should talk to. Let's get Andy on and let him be the veteran voice. So that's going to be my first question to you specifically, Andy. That is a thing I've noticed in a lot of vets, that desire to push the spotlight to someone else or allow someone else to get that moment when, I don't know, maybe people feel that they don't deserve it when all veterans do. How often do you see that as an experience with the people you're working with, where they shy away themselves from being the center of attention for whatever reason?
Oh, yes, that is so true. And I think the reason for some of that is, the military does humble you. It takes you to a place of humility, whatever branch you serve, and it's uncertain. You don't know what to expect, but you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about your fellow teammates. And when you finally graduate, I can only testify for what the Marine Corps did. The Lord had a decision in my case. Do I kill him? Do I put him in prison, or do I send him through the Marine Corps crucible? Thankfully, he had mercy. But you see just this selfless spirit that the veteran community has. I've worked with Wheelchairs for Warriors. I know you've been with Honor Flight.
Wow.
It's incredible that they don't think they deserve the recognition and the celebration or the need to be infilled. They would rather pass it on to another vet.
Yeah, and Honor Flight, by the way,
that's incredible.
I think Honor Flight Houston, their welcome home is next weekend, where the veterans come back from their 2-day trip to D.C., and then we all get to welcome them in the airport. That's not at the Bush Airport. That's actually at the Hobby Airport that it happened. So it's a pretty fun thing. I don't know if you've been there before. Have you been to the welcome home for the honor flight stuff?
Actually, I've been. Yes, sir. I volunteered. I've been on 2 honor flights as a guardian.
As a guardian, nice.
First time I went was World War II vets. The second time was all Vietnam combat vets.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, those men cry. That they share stories they probably never shared with their family.
Yeah.
And what an awesome organization, Honor Flight Houston, Honor Flight, National.
Yeah.
When they created this thing, they were honoring World War II vets, but now they're honoring Vietnam vets and Cold War vets and Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and the other wars and whatnot. So, yeah, the reception's incredible.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I remember the first time I saw it, and actually, as you said a second ago, and this is not designed to be an honor flight chat. I should probably try to have them on next week just before their welcome home. But you meet these guys who in the morning before you go on the flight are just so tough. They're every stereotypical thing you would think of, a Vietnam or a war veteran. And then by the end of the experience, they've been so moved by the things that happen and the amount of times that, like, young kids come up and thank them. That happens in D.C. I think a couple schools do it. It happens when you get back here, whether it's your family or some kids at the welcome home. You see all these guys break. And I think break in a really valuable and a good way where those emotions spill out and some of those stories spill out for maybe the first time. So it's a very cathartic experience from what I've noticed, especially for those guys who were treated so horribly, so ridiculously unfairly, so disgusting of the history of our country that we treated veterans that way, especially the guys, again, that came back from Vietnam. I don't know if there's anything else you want to say in response to that.
Oh, yeah, it's an honor thing, they don't seek honor. They don't seek, they're more behind the scenes. They're working. They're doing what they do, and to be recognized, and they deserve it. I mean, these are national treasures. Honor Flight has an awesome review process. They take nominations, and you've got family members that can become part of the team. They're the guardians. So you just see a lot of blessed grandchildren. They find out about their granddad. It's incredible.
Yeah, it is. All right, so we're going to shift now to the stuff that you're actually involved in. And we're going to take a break probably in about 5 or 6 minutes. We usually don't take a break, but I think I have to play a couple additional spots, so give us a little time there. But before we do that, just give me a rundown of all the different groups that you're involved in. I know you do a lot for vets. I know you're even part of, like, the Trump for Veterans organization back in, like, 2015 or something you told me. So just, if you don't mind, let's start name dropping these places.
Okay, I appreciate it. So I'm a degree marketing strategist out of Houston. I'm a Marine vet, served in corporate America. And one of my, learnings that I did in the Marine Corps, my XO taught me how to volunteer. In the military, they say never volunteer, but I've always found it rewarding, right?
Sure.
You never know what you're going to do. But
sure.
In that time of working in marketing, I've had an opportunity to serve and help with the American Legion, the Marine Corps League, Honor Flight Houston. We talked about Wheelchairs for Warriors, other VSOs. We helped start the Houston Regional Veterans Chamber.
Yeah.
Here recently, I got asked to be a part of the Veterans for America First and the Veterans for Trump. So interestingly, in 2015, I'd never done politics before. Marketing is a marketing, it is a secret weapon. It shouldn't be, right? But I volunteered to be on the campaign, had to submit a resume, and ultimately there was 8 of us here in Houston when we got started. And as we started to get the campaign rolling, they said, hey, we need a veteran, Veterans for Trump guy, and I was the vet. So I said, okay, I'll do it, and then we started Latinos for Trump. And so I was the first Latino, first Veterans for Trump. And then a couple of months later, I got a phone call and they asked me, hey, would you like to do the pledges? I'm like, what? I thought he wasn't taking donors. What do you mean pledges? I go, no, silly rabbit. We want you to do the Pledge of Allegiance at the rally. He's coming to Houston.
Nice.
And I said, sure. Yeah. So interestingly, not my first rodeo. I'm usually behind the scenes, but I've gone on radio and TV before if I need to. And I kind of figure, I said, you know what? I probably have about a couple of minutes to speak. And sure enough, they go, Andy's running late. You got like 3 or 4 minutes to talk about how you got involved with the campaign, et cetera. So wound up speaking at the rally in front of 9,000 people, 15,000 people waiting outside. So it was an incredible ride. I lost a lot of friends and family and probably clients, but it was mission critical that we get Trump elected in 2016 and 2020. Yes, there was voter fraud in 2020. And that's being discovered more so. But things had to happen.
No, you're right. By the way, now that he's in office again, they're actually going to prove a lot of that, it seems like. Let's get to something you said that I think is interesting, though. You lost a lot of friends and family over your willingness to advocate for a certain politician. I'm always amazed, especially for veterans, that that's true. By and large, a lot of the veterans I meet wind up being conservative. It just happens to be a thing. I don't meet a whole lot of veterans who are supporters of the other side. I've met an occasional one, but it seems to be rare. And so it's odd to me that if there's a experience that you gain through serving our country where you prefer a commander-in-chief to come from one side of the political aisle, that your family can't understand that preference or friends can't understand that preference when you return to civilian life and have a political opinion. I'm not trying to make you break bad against people in your everyday life. I've just been I'm somewhat disappointed anytime anyone tells me that, although a lot of people say it, but more so disappointed when I hear a veteran say it, because I've learned that this political belief comes from that, experience of serving and the experience of one commander-in-chief being better than the other. So you think people would respect it. What do you want to say to that?
Well, as vets, we swear the oath. We're not political, so a lot of these organizations they're not into politics. But I am a free person. I do believe in the freedom of speech. And as a vet, with all the stuff that came at us, like the attack on our Second Amendment, the shadow banning, the marriage confusion. I mean, it's sad that when I speak in public, I have to say I'm an adult male. My wife is an adult female. We've been together 45 years. We've got 2 beautiful kids.
Sure.
And as most people are conservative. They really think about it. I mean, we know the narrative, but the media gets it twisted or whatnot.
I agree with you.
But we have a country to save. We just had so much indoctrination. Of course, as a marketer, even when I went to A&M, they taught us never trust the media. I mean, so there's something about the media you don't trust. Okay, you know what? But you have good media now. It's amazing the conversations we're at when there's no longer shadow banning, as much as there used to be or whatnot.
Yes.
But you tell me, I mean, I love America. We all swear allegiance to the flag and we all swear the same oath. But it seems like our politicians a lot of times get elected and they go to usurp our right, our constitutional rights.
No, I agree with you on that. But the thing I did want to say, and more the veteran angle I was trying to get to, is a part of the advocacy that I find the reason that it's so overwhelmingly conservative in veteran communities is because of the benefit of a conservative commander-in-chief, whether it's Trump, whoever it is, although Trump might be even more preferred than some. But I've noticed that learned experience of serving under a Democrat or under a Republican is what creates advocacy within that group of people.
Yeah, the troops have a common sense, and the thing is with some of the agendas, the purging we know about, and just the shifting of values. I mean, the stress-free cards. I mean, what the?
Yeah.
You know what? if I had pulled out a stress card with my drill instructor, man, that would have been.
Right.
Back in my time, that would have been like insane. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Well, no, and actually that's another thing I've talked to vets about, so I'd love your opinion of that too. Some of the changes in society, if you've served our country and if you've been on a field of combat anywhere in the world, you have a different sense of, and actually here, this is the way I should articulate it to you, Andy. I was hanging out with a bunch of vets. They were a lot of Desert Storm guys, and one of their friends walks in. I think he served with them, or at least he served in the same conflict to them. I was at a VFW in Illinois. It's a bunch of white guys that I was sitting with and a black guy who walks in, and they all of them, both sides, start making the most racist, crazy, ridiculous jokes that you've ever heard. And I'm standing there like my mouth drops to the floor, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm hearing all this from all these guys. And they're laughing. They're hitting each other as they're saying it. And then I look at them and I go, guys, what I just heard is so wrong by the standard of 2026. Like, it's so inappropriate. Everyone hates it so much. How did that just happen? And they all go, when you serve with somebody, when somebody stands at your back and defends your life, all that stuff doesn't matter anymore. We can make all these jokes. We can all be friends. We can all throw all these words that people care about aside and understand what actually is important, understand the common sense of our lives, and just, live a different way. And so it was amazing to watch that, to experience that, to see all the... So what do you want to say in response? Because that's another thing that I think really causes people to advocate for one obvious political opinion, not the other.
Well, you learn to get it together. I can tell you, for example, I started a club here in Houston called the Saturday Menudo Club.
Gotcha.
And I started that club 4 years ago when the left called us a bunch of tacos. That's a Latino, Hispanic voice. I'm like, what's wrong with tacos? I didn't get offended that we live in a
I love
culture where
tacos.
people are looking for offense.
Yes.
And guess what? You're going to find it.
Yes.
So menudo is considered a poor man's soup. It was the stuff that they threw away. My dad told me back in the 70s.
Gotcha.
So we got everybody talking about a menudo in Texas now, all the way up to the White House. My friend Bianca Gracias was Latinos for America First.
Yeah.
And the conservative caucus. So she's got influence up there at the White House or whatnot. So we got people talking about menudo, but it's kind of like, you know what? You guys take yourself too dang seriously, you know?
Right.
But again, we're winning people over, and that's the beauty of it. People are waking up and realize, you know what, we do have a great thing here. We are the cool kids on the planet, and we want to help other nations, but they got to get their act together.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
No.
And that's all we're saying is that, hey, let freedom ring around the world. You know, get your country right. We got to get our country right first if we're to survive.
All right. So tell me a little bit about your actual experience serving. Is there any story that comes to mind when you think about your time protecting our country in any capacity, whatever capacity you were called on to do that? Is there any, camaraderie stories or anything that jump out to you?
Yeah, so my mission back in 1983, do you remember the Beirut bombing that
Yeah.
happened? 241 Marines and servicemen were killed in a bombing
Yes.
in Lebanon.
Mm-hmm.
So I was 18 at the time. One of my buddies, Tim McMahon, was 19. He was serving. He actually got killed there.
Wow.
And so that was a wake-up call for my generation. Of course, my wife and I were dating there. And every man, really, and woman wants to know, do I have what it takes? So that was a wake-up call for 5 of my classmates who wound up enlisting later. I went ahead and went the college route. Of course, the movies like Top Gun and Full Metal Jacket. It's like, you know what? I need a boost. I need to do something serious about my life or whatever. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to join the Marine Corps, which surprised my dad because when I graduated from boot camp, I said, Dad, I joined the Marine Corps so I wouldn't have to take orders from me. But he used to tell me, like, becoming a man is a tough boot to fill. I didn't know it was going to take combat boots, but ultimately I wanted to fly Cobras. I scored really high on the ASVAB score. Cool. And so I went through boot camp and applied for MESEP, and thankfully I got stationed in 4th Marine Aircraft Wing in New Orleans and had a good team, a good XO again that guided my career. I got accepted to the program, but ultimately just a little bit after Desert Storm, Desert Shield, I had a little bit of a cutback on that, and I just went and finished up at A&M. So I'm the first to graduate from my family. I grew up in College Station.
Gotcha.
And so it's kind of that Rudy story. Most people probably would have quit, but I was dogged and determined. And thankfully, because of the leadership training and all that, excelled at A&M. Again, did 5 years of corporate America.
Nice.
But I got Marines paid. That was the short answer. I was the unit diary clerk. And so I learned to use the technology. Like I taught the Marine Corps how to fax. A lot of times a Marine wants to get paid. You'd have to mail the paperwork to Kansas City.
Yes.
Well, it takes days. The guy's got a family. Well, XO, can we just do a fax? And they go, yeah, in lieu of the paperwork. And they say, yeah, let's do that. So sure enough, the Marine would get paid. And, of course, I was the hero at that point.
Yeah, there you go.
Serving.
You mentioned Cobras. Those are helicopters. Did you actually fly a lot of those?
Yes. I didn't get to. So the
Okay.
program I would have gone to college, gone to officer school, then gone to flight school, and I was perfect back then for the cockpit. I was 5'6" with 20/20 vision, and I was looking forward to it. So
I was
unfortunately,
curious-
life happens.
Yeah, I was curious why you would have wanted helicopters and not planes.
Well, I don't know. They looked incredible. They sounded great,
Sure.
and for some reason, I fixated on the Cobra.
Yeah.
And this is before I enlisted.
Yeah, well, and that's more of an immediate kind of rescue thing, I think. Like the helicopter conflict versus the flight of an airplane conflict, you'd be more in it in a helicopter, wouldn't you? Wouldn't there be more of a
and there's
direct
a
combat?
harrowing story in Desert Storm. I think it was Desert Shield, but I think there was they wiped out 1,000 tanks with the Cobra, and they played the Marine hymn as they did it.
Wow!
It's never in world history had there been such a devastation to the Iraqi forces than when the
Sure.
Marines showed up with those Cobras. That was an incredible story when I read it.
Yeah. So let me ask you about the ongoing conflict in Iran a little bit. You seem to be willing to give us some political takes while we talk about your military career. What do you think about what's happening in Iran?
Well, we should name the Strait of Hormuz the Strait of America. what I think. I mean,
Sure.
I read the Bible, so we've been dealing with Iran, history for thousands of years, centuries and all that.
Yes.
It's something that needed to be dealt with, and we're just tired of the placating and the payoffs, and we know about the money that was shifted over there.
Yeah.
And finally, it seems like the world's playing right. Finally, after all these years, we got a president that is not a bully because he's a bully. He's like, no, he's respected and feared because they got away with so much.
Yes.
And we need to open up that strait. That's the purpose of the U.S. Navy is to open up the waterways. That's why we have freedom in the world, to be able to protect on the high seas or whatnot. So I listen to the rumors, act on the facts. There's a lot of different opinions, and that's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason why we need radio. That's why we need conversations
Sure.
to find out what the heck is going on.
Well, all right, let me ask you another question, because I've been thinking about this a little bit. So you didn't serve in combat. You came close to it, but you weren't called on to do that during your military career. Is that right?
Right, yeah. So during Desert Storm, they were predicting high body counts, so it got pretty scary.
Right.
It was they call it the 100-hour war. Thankfully,
yes.
No war. I mean, military guys don't want to go to war. We're not warmongers.
Yes.
That we're the last. I mean, we don't want civil war here in America, for example. So that's another issue that we've been working on as vets. Like, let's figure out how we can work it out.
Yeah.
We don't want civil war.
Yeah,
and
you want to get
probably
along.
credit.
Yeah, I was going to say, it goes back to that thing I was talking about where I watched Marines just make fun of each other for all kinds of stuff that the rest of society would think is inappropriate. It actually was a way to come closer together, to circumvent or overcome the stupid things that divide us to get closer. The reason I ask you that, though, you remind me of another Marine I know, just in listening to your story and the amount of involvement you have in a ridiculous amount of other places. And the thing I want to ask about is he also didn't serve in combat. And I remember he told me at least one time in a question that he felt like this was his duty now, that he wasn't called on in that way while he was serving. So now advocacy, getting information out, being involved in like 7 organizations, doing whatever you can for the veteran community, it was a driving force in his life after his service. Is that true for you?
Oh, yeah, we still serve. I mean, the oath never expires. Of course, as a marketing guy, I'm helping businesses to scale. I mean, that's my mission. Like, you know what? Most businesses don't get to $1 million, 95%. It's not that they're not good people. It's just they got to make decisions to start heading that direction. So kind of like with the Veterans Chamber, you get the military is really good at minting Navy SEALs, Marines, combat pilots, or whatever, but life isn't good at minting business owners. And so they are focused on, hey, let's give you a mission, let's give you some training, let's get you successful. That way you can be an impact in your community, to your family, and we're givers. Veterans are givers. We're friendly. We not all of us are PTSD. I think that's only 5 or 10% of the place. Most of us, we're dealing with PTSD when it comes to boot camp. Like, okay, yeah, we just survived that. We survived our time in service, but we're still a family. We're still healing. We're still working together. We're still being productive citizens in the marketplace and whatnot.
Yes.
But yes, to your point.
All right, so we're going to take a break. We got about a 2-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll chat a little bit more. We're talking to Andy about a lot of the things that he's been involved in, a lot of the stuff that he's done to help veterans. He is a veteran himself. You were highly, highly recommended, by the way, by your buddy, Gary Elliott, who is the program director here at KSEV, who has been given multiple awards for his willingness to advocate for anything going on in the world of the military. So it was kind of cool to reach out to him, ask him to be honored this week as the Veteran of the Week on my show, and then for him to push it to you. It's a very veteran move to do it, and I respected him for doing it. So hang on, Andy, for just a second. I will take a quick break. We will be right back. This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas.
Hi, I'm Tommy Mello with Garage Door Doctors. My mom recently moved into a new home with a builder-grade garage door. Noisy, flimsy, and not built to last, so we're fixing that. Mom, you're my hero. When I was growing up, she worked 3 jobs just to save our house.
And helped you build this company.
Now I'm giving her a beautiful new garage door that's built to last. The garage is 40% of your home's curb appeal. When it looks good and it works great.
Life is good. Thanks, Tommy.
From repairs to upgrades, call Garage Door Doctor today.
Hi, this is Paul Betancourt. Property values may have peaked, making 2026 a must-year to protest your property taxes. Sign up with my excellent Betancourt tax advisor team at btanow.com, as our experienced senior property tax agents and customer service matter. The taxman says do it now.
Sign up with Betancourt Tax Advisors by going online to btanow.com or by calling Paul's professional property team at 713-263-6100.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm, and Chuck McDowell, definitely not an attorney. This is Chuck. If someone talked you into buying something really silly and you want to get out of that silly little thing, my advice, get the facts. Call me and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit absolutely free. Inside, you'll learn how timeshare works and all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your free exit information kit. 800-909-9696. 800-909-9696.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. At ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.
It's the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGVC, the voice of Texas. I have Andy Valadez on the phone with me. He is with Marketing Dynamics, veteran-owned company, doing a lot of veteran work. Andy, welcome back to the show. Once a Marine, always a Marine. Tell me a little bit about your company.
All right. Again, Craig, I really appreciate being on the show. So, I started my practice in 1999, Marketing Dynamics. Took my first client from $300,000 a year to $5 million a year.
Wow.
And we landed the Home Depot account, and he's done over $125 million since. So I had a passion to grow businesses. And then in 1999, I read a book called The Marketing of Evil by Dr. Capellian. And so that's when I decided, you know what, I'm going to use my God-given talent in marketing for good, though it cost me everything. So it opened up the door. You've heard the Frost poem, I took the road less traveled. It made all the difference.
Sure.
So in that time, I got to meet a lot of legends, people that you know, people like Oz from 13 Hours. He was the hero at Benghazi.
Wow.
Stephen Williford, the hero at Sutherland Springs, remember the church that got shot up in 2017. Just a plumber by trade, but the Lord used him to take down a gunman that shot 450 rounds into a church, killed 65 people, injured 20. He's a Texas legend now and an international hero.
Yep.
Machine gun preacher, people like that working on President Trump's campaign. So as I started to look at how I could best help my clients in the future, basically our tagline is, and we are an AI agency as well. We're doing a lot with AI, but Marketing Dynamics, we make our clients legendary. How we do that is we get you customers. I love social media. And that's how I met Gary is, press releases, and he answered a bunch of those that we sent. So he's done a lot more than just what we talked about today.
Yeah.
But the main objective is you need customers. You grow your company, then you can scale it, and then you can go live your life in freedom, if you will. So that's what we do. I'm a reader, learner, take a lot of trainings. I love what I do, love talking about marketing. And, of course, when a company becomes successful, life changes, not just for the owner, but for the employees, for the staff, and for the community, especially if it's a good company.
Yeah, no, amen to that, especially if it's a good company that's doing good work, and inevitably those good companies give back to those communities, and that cycle just kind of continues and continues on. You mentioned Gary again. That is Gary Elliott. He is our production manager here, production director at KSEV Radio. You worked with him for 5 or 6 years, doing a whole bunch of stuff. You just said that we haven't even talked about some of the impact that Gary had. Do you mind telling me a little bit more there? I know this is about your company as much as it's about him, but what are some things that we haven't mentioned so far that Gary did to help veterans?
Yeah, so in the media, a lot of times, if it's a nonprofit, there's the ability, especially with radio and TV, there's an ability to either cut a commercial.
Yeah.
So I would send a press release out, or a lot of times I would produce a 30-second, 60-second commercial, and he would help me to produce those. We've worked with Champions Kids Camp, for example.
Nice.
Again, with the American Legion, we've done like fireworks stands, we've done burial ceremonies, we've done different, flag ceremonies, those types of things. So the press releases go out. Sometimes they get covered, sometimes they don't. A lot of times, for example, we've done the wreath ceremonies, Wreaths Across America. For example, that's a national organization as well. Gary's helped out with, and it's really cool when you go to Houston National Cemetery and you got Channel 11, 12, 13, and all the media show up just on the, just because they got a press release or an email. So Gary would be selfless. He'd say, "Hey, Andy, if you want to come cut a commercial for Champions Kids Camp with Bill and Kim Nash, that camp helps kids that have been traumatized to be kind of like reunited with other kids that have been traumatized, and then they kind of have a sense of normalcy after that weekend of just, the team and staff just loving on them and showing them that, there's life after trauma." So again, Gary's helped a lot with some of that stuff.
Wow. You know what's really interesting about that? A lot of the veterans I met, and I started a nonprofit in Illinois that was designed around this. They didn't know how to tell their story. They very much had a great story or had a great message or an organization that they worked with, and the challenge that they faced is how do I tell everybody about this thing I'm doing? And they often didn't even want to. A lot of the times they wanted to shy away from bragging about who they were because it's very, I think, veteran to do that. So it sounds like, much like the nonprofit I was working with for a little while that I created, your organization is very much designed on just being a great storytelling organization. Is that true?
Yeah, so you get some training from Dr. Lynn Walters at A&M. She was incredible, but she taught me the power of a 400-word press release. Of course, I'm a marketing guy. So, well, you know what? There's journalism, but there's also sales and marketing. So you can use the power of doing a press release to get quotes from door openers. Like I may have a client that needs to meet someone, and of course, when you come to them as part of the the media process, that you get past the gatekeepers. I remember I started a radio show here called The Business Makers years ago, and we wound up getting Colleen Barrett, the president of Southwest Airlines, on an interview for the show, and then S. Truett Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A, on the show. So it's really cool to go through the PR agencies. And, oh man, yeah, we want to do this. It's easier to get that connection by the PR side of things, if you will.
Gotcha. So we only have about 2 minutes left. At the end of these conversations, I like to open the floor for a very specific question, and it's actually a question that I don't usually answer myself, but I am going to answer this week. I'd like to know from you another veteran in your life that you know that's had an impact on you, that's done a really great thing for you. And I just want to say before I get your answer that part of the reason to ask Gary to do the show with me is he has already impacted my life. In a very short amount of time that I've known him, he helped me out in a way that actually allowed me to stay here in Houston when I was planning on going somewhere else and leaving and doing another thing. And I don't want to explain that in too much detail, but I just want to thank him publicly on air and he's not the only veteran that's impacted my life. It seems like something that veterans are very willing to do for other people, whether you've known him for 6 months or 6 years or 10 years. So Gary's somebody that really impacted me. Who's somebody that really impacted your life?
I actually have two that come to mind. Charles Inman, he's with the Marine Corps League. He's 81 years old. And so he's helped mentor me to navigate within the military community, like the American Legion and Marine Corps League. And Jimmy Mitchell, who's a retired Colonel Marine. Both of those gentlemen are what I call sages. They're in their 70s and 80s, and they're still contributing to the military community. What I like about Charles, he was actually in boot camp when they filmed the TV series, The Gomer Pyle USA. He was in that platoon.
Wow.
I forget the number. I don't want to misquote the number.
That's awesome.
And they were wondering about Neighbors, the actors. Like, man, he's not going to make it. But they didn't know anything about the TV series that was being produced.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. Thank you so much for that. We are out of time. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being a part of the show. Andy, one more time, shout out your organization and just how people can find you.
Yeah, so Marketing Dynamics, you can go to Marketing Dynamics or teammarketingdynamics.com. Again, that's teammarketingdynamics.com.
Cool. Awesome. Andy Valadez, is that right?
Yes, I'm known as the Marine Marketer, by the way.
The Marine Marketer, Andy Valadez. Thank you for making some time to jump on the show. That's it. We're out of here. KSCV, KGBC, the Voice of Texas. It's the Craig Collins Show. See you next week. See you on Monday.
You're listening to the Voice of Texas, AM 700 KSEV Tomball, and AM 1540 KGBC Galveston.
Restoration of international navigational rights and freedoms in the Strait of Hormuz to be